Don't play this game around your parents. Just don't. Hey guys, Divi here with my first video game review of the year, and I thought I would start off with a bang. And what other way to do so than with Grand Theft Auto 5. And in Grand Theft Auto 5, Michael, an ex-bank robber, Franklin, an ex-gangbanger, and Trevor, a crazy lunatic, come together to take on the city of Los Santos in a series of heists in order to pull off the biggest score they have ever accomplished in their lives. And automatically I was already interested in Grand Theft Auto 5 after playing Grand Theft Auto 4, Red Dead Redemption, and I'm soon going to play LA Noire. I haven't gone around to do so. But what instantly hooked me, as well as probably various people, was Rockstar's announcement of 3 playable protagonists. Now, how does that play out? Well, first off, it's a really fresh take on the franchise, and I think that it was very balanced and fluid, being able to switch in between these characters. Rockstar got it right, making sure that any character doesn't overshadow the other, and each character has a different set of skills and statistics than the other character. Like, for example, Trevor is more proficient in being able to fly aircrafts, whereas Franklin is more specialized in driving vehicles because, based on his background, he used to boost vehicles for a living, so obviously he's going to be more proficient in driving. And it's really great to see what these guys are doing in Los Santos when you're not playing them, and when you switch back into them, they're doing these things that fit their personality. Like, for example, Trevor is drinking behind an alley somewhere, or Franklin's washing his car, or Michael's watching a movie at his house. And even though you're going to start to see the same animation over again because eventually they're going to run out, it's still awesome to see what these guys are up to, and it adds a sense of realism and immersion to the game when you switch between them. And going back to what I said about fluidity, I really enjoyed switching between these characters during actual missions, especially with when shit hits the fan and you have to switch between a character to help out another, especially during a particular segment in the game where you have to switch from Michael to Franklin, and then you have to use Franklin in order to take out guys that are pinning Michael down through a sniper, and just going back and forth between them is awesome and badass. Unfortunately, the biggest problem with the game, in my opinion, would have to be that none of these characters are likable. There's almost no way to connect with any of these characters because they spend the majority of the game just bickering to one another, and every other word in their language is either fuck, shit, dick, you name it. Any sort of vulgarity available in the English vocabulary is their language, is their vocabulary, and it's just very difficult to relate to any of them when all they do is just fight among one another. So because of this, you don't feel like there's any sort of emotional stake when it comes to the story. I mean, there's certain scenes in the game, one in particular towards the end, that is supposed to be emotionally riveting, like a nail biter. Like, I'm supposed to be at the edge of my seat waiting to see what's gonna happen, like, oh my god, what's gonna happen? Because I was supposed to care for these characters, but because I don't, I'm just like, okay, you know, what's gonna happen now? And to top it off, the supporting characters are douchebags as well. Almost every character that these 3 protagonists are associated with are either assholes or they're idiots. So it's difficult to like anyone, and I guess the idiots are likable in comparison because everybody else is such a dickbag that you're just like, oh, I guess I'm gonna go ahead and just like these guys that don't know any better. If I was to pick a character that is somewhat likable and is not an idiot, would have to be Lester, the guy who's behind the planning of the heists in the game. Like I said, by comparison, he would probably be the most likable, especially as the game goes on. Now, that's not to say that these characters are complete losses. The voice work behind these characters is really, really good, especially with Stephen Ogg being the standout as Trevor. And they do have some likable moments. Like, for example, Trevor has this thing with a particular character later on in the game that I did think was kind of cute. And Franklin's motivation to want to be a better person and not be a gangbanger anymore makes him somewhat likable in that sense. And Michael, for me, personally, the connection that I had with Michael was, of course, his love for movies and wanting to make movies. Of course, that resonated with me an awful lot, so that made me like that character during those particular moments when he would geek out about movies. And when it comes to relationships, I really liked some form of camaraderie between Michael and Franklin when they first get to know one another. And speaking of that, I really enjoyed the introduction of Michael into the story, at least after the prologue and after the first time we see him after whatever happened in the past. His introduction, even though it was implausible, was pretty cool. Let me go ahead and back up my claim when it comes to likable characters with Niko Bellic in GTA 4. Niko was a foreigner, so he already served as a form of cipher for us, the gamers, coming into Liberty City, especially for people who have never played the previous Grand Theft Auto games that have already introduced Liberty City. So Niko coming to America and to Liberty City nonetheless, he kind of reacted to that the same way that I did, at least when I first played GTA 4. And on top of that, he is more sympathetic because of his background. He came from a war, he lost people, he lost friends, and all he has is his cousin who also lives in Liberty City. And on top of that, he's got likable supporting characters. Roman is likable, even though he's a bit idiotic, he still has morals. And then there's Brucey, who's a bit of a douchebag, but he's a likable douchebag, which, like I've always said, is very tough to write. And Niko, unlike all these other characters in GTA 5, treats people like they're supposed to be treated. If there's assholes involved, he's going to treat them like assholes. If there's good people, good, careful and sympathetic people, he treats them as such. Especially some of the characters that he gets romantically involved with. So because of that, I had an emotional involvement in the story, so when bad things happen to the good people in that story, it got to me. GTA 5, not so much. Now what I do give the story credit for is that it's actually tailored very well. Each character is given the proper amount of screen time to have us at least know what the character is all about. Each character has their proper introduction with, like I said, Michael's introduction back into the story being my most favorite, and you get to spend enough time with each character as you play. Now that may be a bit of a hassle for some people, especially during the beginning when you play with Franklin for about a good 5 to 6 hours before any of the other characters get introduced. But the script of the story did a good job at introducing these characters and then keeping a proper sense of pace. And it managed to make each character fascinating despite their unlikability. Similar to how I felt about Pain and Gain. The characters in Pain and Gain are unlikable and they're idiots, but they're so fascinating that I just wanted to watch them and be like, I want to see what you do next. And I genuinely wanted to see what Michael, Franklin, and Trevor would do next, despite not being emotionally connected with them. Which leads me to the humor of the game. One thing that the Grand Theft Auto franchise has kept with it would be the humor, especially satirical humor, making fun of things in real life. And I think that the one thing that GTA 5 targeted the most, and I can definitely see why, would be social media. But among that, there's also other humorous elements in the game that genuinely made me laugh. And some of those did have to do with some of these characters, especially when they would have these conversations as I drove to a particular checkpoint. My favorite would have to be the conversation between Michael and Trevor about hipsters. And I'm not gonna lie, there were several moments like that in the game that actually did make me laugh, and for the time being did make me like these characters, but ever so briefly. However, I did think that the story did get a little convoluted every now and then, especially when you brought in the elements of the federal forces at work here, especially the FIB and the IAA, which are definitely riffs on the FIB and CIA. And when they become involved, I didn't mind, but when they actually started to describe what they needed to do and how that involved Franklin, Michael, and Trevor, I kind of wish that they would have slowed down so that I can comprehend a little more. And I know that I can just pause the game and go to the little dialogue section and look back at the dialogue to see what they talked about. But even then, sometimes it either wouldn't make sense, or sometimes the dialogue from the cutscene wouldn't even appear on that screen in the pause menu. So I was a little out of the loop in certain points of the story. And among that, I thought it did get a little cartoony in certain points. And I know that the Grand Theft Auto franchise has always gotten a little over the top with its certain moments in the story, but there were certain points in this game that I thought they kind of crossed the line a little bit, especially a particular scene later on in the game where different things come together that I just thought it was cartoonish. It felt like a parody. It felt like something that you see out of one of those movies where just something happens and then something happens and then something happens, and it was just too much for me. Now the game was advertised as having 3 playable characters, but there's actually a 4th one. Los Santos itself. Los Santos is a technical marvel. It's beautiful, it's detailed, it's filled with life. The AI in the game, from the pedestrians out in the street to the activity that's happening on the actual streets with the cars and everything, is just so well done that the whole city, like I said, feels alive. And the graphics are way more polished than they were in GTA 4. During the night, the seams started to show a little bit, but during the day they captured the sunlight of the West Coast so well that I feel like GTA 5 is right behind The Last of Us when it comes to graphics, that are as close to next gen as you can possibly get on current gen. I don't care what you say, I still consider the PS3 and the Xbox 360 current gen and not past gen or whatever the hell you decide to call it. I'm just not ready to let that go. And despite some technical hiccups and glitches and actually quite a few frame rate issues, especially when a lot of stuff is happening on the screen, the graphics still hold up considering how massive Los Santos is. Much like previous Rockstar releases, it comes with a physical map here that you can open up, and this is actually me opening it up for the first time because I didn't want to get spoiled. I didn't want to see how Los Santos actually looked before I actually played the game. But it comes with a map here that you've probably already seen online, and as you can see, this place is huge. Now it's mostly an island and it's mostly countryside and whatnot, and here you actually have the real metropolitan area. But this place is indeed huge. Now, I'm not sure that it's actually as big as Rockstar was saying that it was. They were saying that it's, what was it, San Andreas and Liberty City and West Elizabeth from Red Dead Redemption all combined. I think that maybe it's just a tad bit bigger than that, but just by a little bit, and not as massive as they were making it out to be, because it didn't take me that long to explore every inch of it, but it did take me quite a while. And as you can see, there's plenty to do. This city is filled with activities for you to be able to do. I'll talk about that more in the gameplay section of this review, but as you can tell, this gives you an awful lot to explore, and it's going to take you quite a while, just as much as it did with me. But what really hit me the most with Los Santos is the fact that, if you couldn't already tell, Los Santos is a spoof of sorts of Los Angeles. And it's not just Los Angeles, there's plenty of other areas in San Andreas and Los Santos combined that definitely pokes fun at almost all of Southern California. And I live in Southern California, so it definitely hit close to home with me. Not in a bad way, but in a way where I'm like, wow, that definitely looks like Los Angeles. And then you got this other place called Sandy Shores, which is where Trevor comes from, and it looks like I'm staring at Phelan. It looks just like Phelan. And not just because they're cooking meth there. And going back to what I was talking about, the satirical tone of the Grand Theft Auto franchise, there's different places throughout Los Santos that you'll instantly recognize and be like, that's making fun of that. My favorite in particular would have to be Up and Atom, which is a definite riff on In and Out, which is also a California exclusive. Los Santos looks great, but it sounds great too. The voice work, not only behind the main characters, but also some of the pedestrians on the street, is really good. The soundtrack is awesome as well. Every song that you've seen in the trailers is pretty much here in the soundtrack. And of course, my personal favorite will have to be Los Santos Rock Radio. And there's also the score, which has a very 80s movie feel to it, which is a definite connection with Michael's love for 80s movies. Now, the gameplay in Grand Theft Auto 5 is similar to the ones from the previous GTA games. You jack cars, you shoot guns, you do everything. But along with that, they threw in a few new gameplay mechanics, such as a stealth mechanic. That way you don't make as much noise whenever you have to sneak around a certain place. There's this special ability that each character has that is very reminiscent of the Deadeye mechanic from Red Dead Redemption. The game slows down whenever you enter the little module that allows you to switch weapons, which makes things a lot more convenient, especially when you're in that very tight situation. And of course, the integration of the mechanic to be able to switch between characters. But of course, the best part of any GTA game is the open sandbox style, allowing you to do almost anything that you want to at your own pace, from the story missions to the side quests to the different activities that you get to do throughout the city, from golf to tennis to arm wrestling to darts to drinking, yoga. Now, even though there's some things that you were only able to do in Liberty City from GTA 4, like eating hot dogs from a vendor or bowling, I will say that the best thing that you can do in GTA 5 is take a selfie. You can take a selfie in GTA 5. It's amazing. But among that, the story and the side missions are very diverse, keeping the pace of the game going and making it just more and more entertaining as you go along. From high-speed chases to, like I said, different aircraft that you get to fly, to hijacking and crashing a train, to mopping the floor. But despite having several cinematic moments in the game, the biggest highlight for me would be the bank heists. They're extremely fun. Being able to plan what kind of approach you're going to take with each job, what people you're going to have on this job, and then being able to pull it off, it feels just as rewarding as it should be. My only nitpick about some of these missions would have to be that, For some reason, Rockstar felt the need to compete against Saints Row when it came to some of these missions because, wow, trust me, when you go into this game, expect certain things to not be typical GTA canon and more Saints Row-like. And it just made me wonder, like, Rockstar, what are you doing? You don't have to compete, you're Rockstar. You're gonna put out a blockbuster every time you make a new game, so what's the need to compete with Saints Row and compete with them with the thing that they have over you? Which does bring up an interesting point, and that is that GTA 5 definitely has a different feel than GTA 4. GTA 4 was more Martin Scorsese, whereas GTA 5 is somewhat Quentin Tarantino. But still, there's a shitload to do in Los Santos that will keep you busy for around maybe 40 to 50 hours, 60 to 70, perhaps even 100 hours, just like Rockstar said, if you go for that 100% completion. Now, it is time to talk about GTA Online, but before I do, I feel like I have to give you guys a bit of a disclaimer. GTA Online is changing as we speak. Rockstar is developing different things for it, and it's going to be continuously changing as time goes on, especially this year. So because of that, what I'm about to say about GTA Online is more like impressions rather than solid set-in-stone opinions. And in no way do my impressions about GTA Online are going to affect the score that I'm going to give GTA 5. And that's probably why they called it GTA Online, is because it feels like its own beast, and it doesn't feel like GTA 5 multiplayer or GTA 5 Online. It is genuinely a whole different experience. So with that being said, let's go ahead and talk about it. What Rockstar strived to do with GTA Online is to deliver an immersive online connectable experience, which is funny considering that that's the thing that they're making fun of in GTA 5 with Bleeder and Life Invader, which are it's definitely Twitter and Facebook, you can easily tell. And I find that kind of ironic. Now, even though I didn't care one single bit for the iFruit mobile app that they keep encouraging you to download on your personal, smartphone or your iPad or whatever the hell you got, which I found very inconvenient because every time I tried to mess around with it, I downloaded it and I tampered with it, and every time I tried to access something different, it would crash on me. Either that or it wouldn't be able to access the website that it was supposed to go to. And I found that kind of frustrating, but you don't really need it in order to play GTA Online. It's just a little thing to try to incorporate the whole thing about social media into GTA Online. But its strength would have to be that GTA Online starts off as almost a whole new single-player experience. You start off as your character, and it almost starts off like a whole new story, bringing in returning characters from GTA 5, along with new characters that get introduced here. And they all have their actual voice work and dialogue, and it was very interesting. It even has a little opening credits sequence, and I thought that was very immersive and very awesome to see. But the first problem that I saw was that the personalized character that I get to spend GTA Online with is not very personalized to begin with. First of all, the dude, well, it's a dude for me because I'm a dude, doesn't have a voice. He doesn't talk at all, so it's really awkward to see some of these cutscenes where you got characters with actual dialogue talking to this guy who's a complete mute. It's like they're talking to a mime. And it's just very uncomfortable. Along with that, GTA Online has this parent or grandparent system in order to be able to customize how your character looks like when it comes to their ethnicity and physical attributes. That kind of made me wish that they had some sort of system very reminiscent of that of, if we're going to go ahead and compare it to Saints Row again, Saints Row, where you get to customize almost every single facet of the character, from the height of their nose to the depth of their ears, that kind of stuff. Because basically what you do with the system is that you have to choose between different models of your grandparents that will then determine how your parents look like. And then how your parents look like will determine how you look like. And even though it will probably be more convenient for people that don't want to bother with all those different modules and sliders to be able to temper how your character looks like, and you just want to choose one particular preset and just get the game going, it'll be convenient for them. But for me, it kind of made me wish that I could at least have the option to toggle every single part of my character to at least try to make him look like I do, because my dude's a very handsome looking fellow. And I'm not saying that I'm not a handsome looking fellow, but I would really like my character to bear a stronger resemblance to me, at least. And of course, all of Los Santos is at your disposal in GTA Online, and certain activities become more and more accessible as you progress in the online component of the game. And I will admit that some of these activities that you get to do throughout the city become kind of boring after a while because they're kind of, I don't want to say the same because they take place in different locations. So that kind of keeps me going. But the kinds of things that you get to do, like death matches or last team standing or races or certain missions, even though they're kind of different from time to time, after about an hour and a half, I start to lose a little bit of interest. On top of that, there was hardly anybody to be able to play with. I don't know if it's something to do with the servers or the fact that I don't have a solid crew built yet, but there was hardly anybody to be able to play with. And when somebody did appear in GTA Online, they would do anything imaginable to try to kill me. But what I think is the most interesting part of GTA Online is making money. That way you can build your character, buy more cars, buy more modifications for your cars, buy garages to store your cars, along with the houses that those garages come with, and of course different customizable items like your clothes, different sort of attributes, you name it. And some of the missions that you're given by some of those new and returning characters are very interesting. Even though the repetition of Simeon's missions to repossess vehicles is starting to get a little bit tiring, while I'm doing one, I'm actually interested to see what the next one is, because I have hope that as I progress in GTA Online, much like the activities that you get to do around Los Santos, different things are going to be introduced. So that will keep me playing GTA Online for at least a few more hours. Plus, it's always awesome to actually have somebody cooperate with me on a mission, and having the two of us be in the middle of the road, I manage to jack a car, he walks in when I honk the horn, and we go to a particular spot, and he takes out and holds off all the thugs while I repossess the car, and then I turn around and come get him, and then we take off, trying to fight off as many of the guys on our tail as we possibly can, and then delivering the car, thus completing the mission, it always feels authentic, and it just feels awesome. My only real problem right now with GTA Online, no heists, or at least not yet. I know that Rockstar is currently developing them right now, and eventually they're going to come to GTA Online, especially this year. But I did think it was a little deceiving to call these missions jobs, where my interpretation of jobs was bank heists. Pulling off all these different things that I was able to do in GTA 5 that I was definitely looking forward to doing in GTA Online, but I couldn't. But like I said, GTA Online is going to be expanding as the year goes on, and I'm definitely looking forward to what Rockstar is going to bring to the table with GTA Online, and therefore I cannot really give a solid opinion on GTA Online, let alone have my impressions of GTA Online affect my score for GTA 5. Which, let's go ahead and get it. GTA 5 has several amazing things about it that definitely makes it one of the best games of 2013. But having unlikable characters that didn't make me emotionally invested in the story, which was somewhat convoluted and sometimes cartoony, keeps it from being the best game of 2013. So for that, I give GTA 5 a 9 out of 10. I definitely recommend picking GTA 5 up before you even invest any time and money into the next generation, because I definitely think that this is one of the best swan songs for the current generation before you make that final transfer to the next one. My only question now is, when are we going to get a female protagonist for GTA? I'll leave you to ponder that, and I thank you guys for watching. If you guys enjoyed my review of GTA 5 and would like to purchase the game, be sure to use the link in the description. It would really help me out. Be sure to subscribe to my channel for more videos, and as always, take care guys. I'll see you guys on the next one. You can use different kind of weapons, and it's mostly told from a turd.